Welcome to HCA Talks Health, brought to you by Health Coaches Academy, the UK's leading health coach training academy. I'm your host, Zena Le Roux, a certified health coach, and each fortnight I'm joined by experts from across the health and well-being space to share insights, ideas, and practical tips you can use to improve your health and everyday well-being. Welcome to HCA Talks Health. I'm Zena Le Roux, and with me today is Nicole Askwith Williams. So she's an award-winning women's health educator and a speaker, and also the founder of the Women's Wellbeing Club, which is an education and a coaching business dedicated to supporting women in their overall health, their hormone management, and their work-life balance. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So I want to start with your own story. And I've read on your website, I've seen that you were struggling with your own hormonal symptoms. So firstly, tell us more about that and what it was like.
Yeah, of course. So, for many, many years, and actually on reflection, I have been struggling with hormonal symptoms and issues since I was a teenager.
Mm.
And it was, I guess, kind of covered up with different medications or different things when going back and forth to doctors. And then as I grew up and I went to uni for like my first kind of degree and career and then went into the corporate space. Things just again got a little bit worse and I was finding it very difficult to manage, mainly the I guess the more physical symptoms of skin and weight management and just how I kind of saw myself and working with my body and feeling like it just something wasn't clicking and wasn't right. So when I was like in deep in the corporate space, I actually worked in corporate for nearly 11 years. I just started to take my health more seriously, research more things, do more things. I then did a bunch of qualifications, mainly for myself to start with, to expand my own knowledge and see what I could do for myself. And then it snowballed, as often it does when people get into that space. And yeah, here I am now with I left corporate 2 years ago and have my own business. So
Wow. So it obviously played quite a huge role in the work that you're doing today, I guess.
yes,
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. And I think with women of my age and generation, I'm in my 30s, but also women that are slightly older too, a lot of us have gone through that journey of maybe not understanding things when we were younger and going back and forth to doctors and figuring out what was wrong, but didn't really have the answers. So yeah, it definitely played a massive, massive part into what I do now and why I'm interested in it and helping other people with that as well.
Was there a specific moment when you kind of realized, oh wow, it's not just me, and I want to support other people as well, where, it was something that you wanted to turn into your life's work? When did you realize that?
Yeah, so I always in my corporate life, I always worked in quite male dominated environments
Mm.
in kind of finance and insurance. So there was, yes, there were some women, but it was very male dominated. And when I started to, I guess, understand things more for myself and implement things and change things, you kind of just start helping other people a little bit. And then you realize, oh, actually, this is really rewarding and I am quite good at it and kind of building up from there. So it's yeah, it took for me to kind of understand myself and go through, as I said, different qualifications and learning new things to then helping a few people in the workspace and my friends. And I then actually did decide to, it was more of a fitness business to start with when I was still in my corporate job and kind of built that up just on the side as something I enjoyed and helping people with, how they feel and how they look. And again, that was quite rewarding itself. But for me, it was a lot deeper than just kind of, fitness and how someone looks. And that's when I, yeah, took a more deeper dive into hormonal health, women's health in general. And that's where I guess my business and community developed to now. And then that's why, yeah, I left the corporate life and decided to like pursue this properly to give it my full time and energy into what it is now.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what are some of those deeper things that matter to you? It's not just the obvious things, I guess, the fitness and the number on the scale, but what are some of those deeper layers that you also care about?
Yeah, so I feel like we we live in a world that isn't necessarily female supported. So, we run on a completely different hormonal profile to men. So whether that be actual working, depending on whatever work you do, whether that is in corporate, whether it's shift work, whether, you maybe are just full-time mum at home, again, trying to understand your body and do all these things. We are very, very different to men. So that's actually learning how to work with your body better and understand what happens and how you're feeling, your energy, and even just kind of psychologically how you're going to feel different.
Mm.
So that as a more kind of deeper how our physiology impacts everything, but also enabling women to actually just live to their full potential. For me, I feel like so many women don't realize how amazing they are with the skills that they have, and what are they actually passionate about, and how can you bring those passions, desires, goals into what you do. So I do call myself a holistic life coach because, yes, we have the pillars of exercise, movement, nutrition, fueling the body, understanding the body, because again, I have like that background, but also with now developing what I do and how I help women, we do go deeper into your work life balance, your relationship, your career, like all of these different things that play massive massive parts in someone's life, and then being able to actually do things for them rather than doing something for everybody else.
Okay. Okay, so there's yeah, it's quite multi-layered, and you
Yeah.
support women from so many different areas in life. It's not just singly focused like that. Yeah.
Mm.
So you developed the Women's Wellbeing Club. So tell us a little bit more about it and what type of support do you give women out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Women's Wellbeing Club was born just after I left corporate. So it's nearly 2 years old, coming up to our 2 year anniversary in the summer. And how I describe it, and you gave a really good introduction, is a platform and a community for women's health education and coaching. We have two, I guess, main pillars of the business and what we do. So our one-to-one coaching or group coaching for women, and I've kind of just touched on that a little bit in terms of what we do and how we can support women. But also the other side of things is I actually educate other people in women's health. So whether that be other coaches, and also going into workplaces. So almost like a full circle moment, actually, of me being in corporate.
Yeah.
Now I actually go back into the organizations to teach on women's health and well-being and how they can support women in the
Mm,
workplace.
great. And what are some of these practical things that you share with women? What are the things that where can they start?
Absolutely. So we look at everything that is going on within someone's life
Mm,
right now. So are they eating well? What is their nutrition like? Are they moving their body? Are they exercising? Whether that be going to the gym, it doesn't have to be, whether it's a hobby, whether it's dance, are you trying different sports? A lot of what we do is around kind of mental resilience and mindset work, actually understanding what things that you don't like in your life right now and what things that maybe need to change. And everything, I guess, that we do is underpinned by that education. As human beings, learning and knowing why and how something happens
mm,
enables you to make those habitual changes, the behavioral changes, and then that can be used kind of longer term.
mm,
So we look at how someone can implement those small habits in multiple different areas to support them in the long run, because obviously what's works for me is not going to work for you, it might not work
mm,
for someone else, so it's very, very bespoke and tailored into what your current situation is like.
great. Okay, so it is quite individualized.
Mm.
Um, so I'm just thinking about, your own life and how you've transitioned quite a bit from from a corporate space into doing the work that you love. How did life change for you now that you are doing the things that you really care about?
Yeah, it's the thing is, I really did like my corporate job, which
Okay.
when I say this to people, they're like, oh, why did you change
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
But for me, it was, I could see how much of an impact I was having
Mm,
more with this type of work. So
mm,
yes, I enjoyed my old job, and it was it was paid quite well. It was very stable. You're in a very safe environment, and it was a big jump. And going from an environment where I was working with lots of people, I was running teams, to
Yeah.
being by myself was a big change. So even myself having to work on my mental kind of resilience and goals and where I want to be and things like that is really important. But it's just, for me, even now, we are in an age where women's health is being spoken about more, and we are in the process of getting more funding for things, and people are speaking about more topics, but it's still not enough, in my opinion. We are so far behind what every other kind of topic is in terms of healthcare, and I kind of always refer it back to men, but we are just so far behind in support for women. So for me, it's what I'm passionate about. I can help people one to one, but then also kind of doing my educational side of things, I can help lots more people with understanding and then actually taking that and they can implement things into their life, rather than being surrounded by like misinformation is big for me. Making sure people have the right stuff.
Mm. So are you saying that there are still quite a big gap when it comes to women's health? Is it just the knowledge? Um,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
find that?
massively.
Yeah.
Yeah. The misinformation that people have is insane. And I do think that social media has a big part to play. And I have a love-hate relationship with social media, because it's great for some things. And again, you can get really good information from social media, or you obviously can now connect with people that maybe you wouldn't have been able to before. But the amount of misinformation and people doing and saying whatever they want on there is massive. So people that come to me on a one-to-one basis, again, it's uncovering all of these things that they thought were the right things to do, or they've taken information from someone that maybe wasn't, reputable and had qualifications or anything like that, and kind of unpeeling all of those. But also even in just healthcare, GP, doctor's appointments, misdiagnosis, not being listened to. Like, there are loads of different layers for me for women's health and how we can improve. And we are getting there. You can see improvements in terms of specific funding for studies or different,
Mm.
conditions, but we are still a big way off.
Mm. And you think like it's definitely more so compared to men's health. Also looking at the misinformation on social media, more so.
A
Mm.
million percent, a million percent. Like, women didn't even have to be in clinical trials until the 1990s. So
Mm.
even that is where I feel like we are in like this new age of just finding out about so much of
Mm.
female bodies and how we work, and the difference, as I said, in certain conditions, whether that be cardiovascular health or actual menstrual cycle conditions and abnormalities. Like, we are just in this space now, which is really exciting, about finding out everything. But also I feel we're going to be like, oh gosh, we didn't know that and we didn't know this. And it's kind of moving through those different, again, those levels as we go forward.
Yeah. So you're making me very curious now. What is maybe one or two of those things like that you see that are most common that women believe to be true that are absolutely a myth,
Yeah.
needs to be busted?
Gosh, that list could be so long. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, what could it be? Um I feel like, what because I am in the space of, I guess, hormonal health, a big one with hormones is that women women will blame their hormones for a lot of stuff, but
Mm.
actually there's so much stuff in your day-to-day lifestyle that can impact your hormonal
Yeah.
health and how you
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
So whether that be your menstrual cycle and how that is, but then leading up to kind of menopausal transition and how you're feeling going through kind of perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. All of these things are, again, you can have such an impact.
Mm.
So the one thing that, again, is quite relevant now, I would say, in terms of social media and the topics that I'm having, is the hormone balancing movement. Again, your hormones shouldn't be balanced, they should regulate. Having those fluctuations up and down is really important. So that is a big myth that, again, I'm constantly having these conversations with people of, it's actually okay for your hormones to go up and down, like that's what we want,
Yeah.
but it's how well they fluctuate up and down, which is how it's going to make you feel at certain times of the month or in your life.
And how well we manage these different stages. That's really
Yeah,
what's important. But I hear you. I think that's the same conversation that we often hear with genetics. We blame genetics, and there's nothing I can do about
Yeah.
this disease or whatever. And while there's actually quite a few things that are within our control that could make a huge difference. Have you ever wondered whether you could turn your interest in health and wellness into a meaningful career? At Health Coaches Academy, we train people just like you to become professional health and wellness coaches through our Level 5 diploma. It's a 12-month part-time course, fully accredited, and designed to give you the skills, confidence, and practical knowledge to help others transform their health while building a career you love. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, visit healthcoachesacademy.com. Now, back to the show. Okay, thank you. That's quite interesting. So what are some of the most common struggles that you see women facing today out there? You're working with a lot of women. What are the common themes?
Yeah. So food is always a real big one, and nutrition, and whether that is understanding how to actually fuel your body properly,
Mm,
depending on where you're at in your life stage, because
mm,
what's going to be helpful maybe for someone in their early 20s is going to be different to someone who is trying to get pregnant or who is pregnant, and then someone who is in that menopausal transition. So actually knowing what is good for you at that stage is a big one with food. And I would also actually say probably another big one is the stress management, whether that be from certain type of work. I do work with a lot of female business owners,
mm,
so similar in a sense of we're doing everything all the time and we don't have time to kind of de-stress and actually understand what's going on. So it's again that work-life balance of actually, yes, you want to do well in your career and be, very high performing, which is amazing because again, as women, we have more choice now, which is amazing and fantastic that we can do all of this stuff. But actually, you also do need to take a minute and be like, this is not doing anything for my health. Yes, you can be, running at 150 miles an hour for however many years, but it's going to catch up with you in the end.
exactly, exactly. Yes, I think stress is a big one. I think food, there's lots of misconceptions around food, I guess.
Mm,
When women thinking that they should not be eating a lot or they should
yeah.
be eating a certain type of food to for health reasons. And I think that's quite sad where our health goals or perception of health might be coming in the way for many women in terms of achieving that optimal version of themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
Mm. So for people listening out there today thinking, oh, I would love to go into this space. I would love to support women through a coaching, way of doing business. Then what would some of your tips maybe be? What does good support for women look like
Mm,
from a coaching perspective?
yeah, so I feel like this is a really interesting topic and conversation because again, with social media and things online, I feel like there are a lot of people that call themselves coaches that maybe necessarily shouldn't be, shouldn't be a coach.
Yeah.
So for me, any type of fitness coaching, physical coaching, you obviously need to, in my opinion, have your like PT level 2, PT level 3, because then you understand basic physiology and can write training programs and understand how someone can progress in exercise. However, in those qualifications, they don't really cover anything on female health. So, for me, in my opinion, if you are going to go on to coach women properly and have that support, you need to be doing extra qualifications. So, whether that is from a fitness background, as I've just said there, or whether it's more around life coaching background. So, again, you obviously got all of these different types of qualifications and organizations that you can get different coaching qualifications from. But whatever you do, in my opinion, you would need to do an extra thing
Yeah,
in
you
female health and understanding the female body. So,
do.
um, from fitness, whether that's pre and postnatal, from life coaching, or again in general, in any type of coach, I actually have a course that covers female physiology and how to coach women better. So, it doesn't have to be from me; it can be from other places. But you need, in my opinion, to be doing something specific to a woman because we are, again, very different to men when it comes to how we run and how our bodies work.
So I guess it's that combination of the education and coaching. It's not just coaching, but there's some level of, yeah, I think
Yeah.
something we want to share with them. We want to empower them with the knowledge as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do feel like if you have been through your own journey, that again is very helpful.
Mm.
You don't have to. Obviously, some people get into the space and coaching space, I would say quite young, which
Mm.
again, it is if you know that you want to help people, then that's great. But if you have had your own journey, whether that be going through something in your younger years, or again, I know quite a lot of people that have now turned into specific types of coaches from going through their menopausal transition because they want to help other menopausal women. So I think things like that are also very, very helpful. But yeah, for me, you need to be doing more education, knowledge to be able to support women better with the right evidence-based advice. That's the thing for me. A lot of people can give general advice in terms of maybe what worked for you, which might work for someone else, but you need to have a solid foundation of actually what does the science say? What's the evidence? How does this work across the board?
Yeah, I think especially because of the misinformation, it's that evidence-based support that they need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's people who want to possibly work with women. But what about the women listening today who maybe feel quite confused and unsupported?
Yeah.
What would you want them to know?
Yeah. I would say, again, in the age of social media and the internet and things like that, just take a little bit more time to understand and just check out where you're getting your information from.
Mm.
So whether that be certain people on social media or certain websites or whatever, just be mindful. Just because someone, and I say this because I have people coming and have these conversations all the time, just because someone has hundred thousands of followers or whatever does not mean that they are qualified to give you advice or the things that they're saying is true. So that would be my first one. And you again, what I kind of said this before, but what works for your friend, for example, in the office, may not work for you. So it's really important that you take your own journey and what you're struggling with, whether it's certain symptoms or whether it's just a particular part of your life that you're thinking, oh, this doesn't feel right. Maybe I need to change something here. It's about you. It's not about, what anyone else is telling you to do or what works for them, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. In what ways do you support women? So, I mean, you've got the Women's Wellbeing Club. Is it one-on-one coaching? Do you have group programs? You mentioned something about an online course. Tell us more.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess in terms of coaching women, we have a one-to-one program, which as I said before, it's very tailored, it's very bespoke, and you work with me directly over a period of time. So as I said, we look at lots of different, I call them buckets, lots of different
Mm.
buckets in your life and how we can support that and change that. We do have a group app program. So if you are someone who maybe has had coaching before, maybe wants to try something different, or thinks that, oh, maybe I'm not ready for that kind of in-depth one-to-one work. We have our slightly lighter touch group app program, which is an 8-week program that you follow. And then in terms of, you just mentioned there, courses, my female health course is for other healthcare professionals and coaches. So again, if anyone's listening to this, that might be something for you
Mhm.
in terms of going down the route of understanding female health more.
Lovely. Okay, so thanks. I think we've covered quite a bit, and I think the main message is how important it is to make sure where you're getting your information from,
Yes.
and that there are so many things that are within our control that could make a difference. Also, when it comes to hormones, it's not this
Yeah.
thing that you can do nothing about, and empowering ourselves and educating ourselves to be able to do that best, is really what your work is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A quote that I absolutely love is genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And there are so many things that you can't control. But
Mhm.
again, I always say to my clients, control the controllables, and you're
Yeah.
gonna make the best difference for yourself.
Exactly. So to end off, is there maybe one thing that we've shared that you want to reiterate, or something new that you feel like you really want listeners to take away from today's
Mm. I feel like maybe just you will know within yourself if you're not super happy with your body, yourself, your mind, or something doesn't feel quite right in your life, you have the power to change that. This is something that always comes up. Oh, I'm not sure, don't have the time, what do I do? You 100% have the power to change that. So if you are sat on something that just doesn't feel right, take that as a sign. And whether that you go and research some more about something, or you go and contact a coach, or whatever it is, you 100% take that and run with it, because you can change your life and change yourself a lot quicker than you probably think that you can.
So trust that intuition, but then take action in some way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Nicole. It's been such a joy. Thank you for taking out the time of your busy schedule. And yeah, it's a very important work that you're doing out there. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
No, thank you so much for having me.
And for those listening, if you've been feeling unsure about your hormones or your health, then hopefully this gives you a bit of a clearer place of where to start managing all that misinformation and starting to do something about it. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on HCA Talks Health. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to share it with friends or family who might find it inspiring. And if you'd like more insights like this sent directly to your inbox, make sure to sign up for our fortnightly HCA Talks Health newsletter. We've popped the link in the show notes. See you next time.